Fernandez here of Kamal Fernandez Dog Training, and as you've probably seen on my Facebook page, I'm currently doing these conversations with people that I consider friends, peers, and that can offer something to the conversation that we are having at the moment, or the challenging times that we are facing with the restrictions imposed on us because of the COVID-19 virus that's sweeping the world, and what we can do as individuals to help ourselves, and also for those people that are looking into online training, to obviously give them some insight from people that are out there doing it presently and doing it incredibly well, and what we can glean from them. Also, bringing it back to dog training, what we can do with our dogs in our homes and ourselves to keep us happy, healthy, and grounded. The person that I'm talking today is a friend, a very good friend of mine, a student and a entrepreneur, Kat Farrants. And if some of you that have followed some of the stuff that I've done online before, you would have probably met Kat. She runs Movement for Modern Life, which is a online yoga business, and I'll let Kat tell you a little bit more about that. Which obviously offers a huge spectrum of yoga instruction from instructors across the globe, and Kat uses her platform to reach others and to help others. And certainly in this moment, I think that she's had a lot of people realise that there is things that we can do to help ourselves, and that yoga is definitely one of them. Thank you very much for your time, Kat, I should say, in your gorgeous surroundings, as I'm with my scenic grey New York side. How are you anyway? How are you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm very, very fortunate. I have a lovely big garden, and I have the dogs, and I have my practices, and I have my business. In the business, we all work remotely. Yep. There's a team of 8 of us, and everyone's remote. We always have been. Wow. So to be honest, I'm really good at working in this way. I've been ready for lockdown all my life.
So how has it affected your current day-to-day routine in terms of your as I say, your daily practice with how your Kat is obviously also a student of mine. She has 2 Australian Shepherds. How are you managing with your own dogs then?
Oh, what dogs?
Oh, you've gone.
Yeah, I'm back. No, to be honest, I'm going through a really busy time because I do run, primarily my main thing is I run Movement for Modern Life. And it's an online yoga portal. We've been going now for 7 years.
Wow, was it 7 years, Kat?
It's been 7 years, I know, it's crazy.
My God.
So the thing is, we've built up to, we're a bit of a thing now.
Yeah.
And now that everybody is obviously needing to go online due to necessity, everyone's sort of turning to us, and I'm, goodness, I'm pleased that they are, because we know what we're doing. Yeah. We can very safely guide people through home practices, which will keep them healthy, happy, and living a better life. But in terms of my life with the dogs right now, I'm just walking. Whatever walks I can do, that's great. We don't have competitions. I'm not training much. I'm just I've actually been doing some fundamentals. I've been taking time to learn some dog skills.
Good.
You're like, you need to
yeah. Well, just going back to, but I think that's the thing that I've said to people time and time again is this is your opportunity to really deal with those issues that you've probably gone, oh well, the shows are imminent.
Exactly.
I'm going to put them to a back burner. Well, essentially, you might as well pick those up and I think address any core issues, which is fantastic for dog training in general.
No, exactly. So that's exactly what I'm doing, because I'm terrible at rosette seeking, as you know.
That's honest.
I love to win.
Yep.
And just sort of knowing that bit of myself. I've got a puppy who's, she's now really ready to go on and do exciting things. And you know what? I'd probably be pushing her if we weren't taking this time out. Yeah. So in a way, I'm doing with the dogs what I'm doing with my practice, which is I'm taking a step back. Yeah. I'm letting this be a present moment practice, a present moment time. Because right now there's a lot of fear, there's a lot of anxiety, there's a lot of people in the world who are like, what's going on with the dogs? Yeah. When's the dog shows? Yeah. When's this going to be lifted? Yeah. Point is, nobody knows.
Absolutely, yeah.
Nobody. Yeah. And that's actually an amazing position to be in. When in our lives have we ever had our schedules entirely taken away and had blank time to learn about ourselves.
Yeah.
Essentially.
Yeah.
And with our dogs, to learn about our relationship with our dogs.
Yeah.
How is it that I communicate with it? How do I communicate with myself?
Yeah.
So with my practices, what I do every day is I do a short, morning yoga practice. It used to be very feisty, so I've been practicing since I was 18, which was only a couple of years ago.
Absolutely. For us all, Kat, for us all. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, I used to have a very, very dynamic practice. And it's changed as I've changed and as what I do changes, which is totally appropriate. And now I do sort of 10 to 20 minutes moving every morning. I always do a breathing practice as well.
Yeah.
And the reason why I do these is it's really good to connect to the present moment, connect to your body. And as you said right at the beginning, to ground.
Yeah.
It's that sense of what is right now.
Yeah.
And in a way, for lots of people right now, what there is there's a fear.
Yeah.
And I think that actually embracing that and embracing the unknown, we're all terrified.
Yeah.
Anything could happen. We've all got loved ones who potentially are in a very dangerous situation or ourselves. But actually, it's having that time to feel that fear, to get to know yourself, to get to learn and trust your own emotions, to be like, okay, I'm feeling anxious, I'm feeling afraid, and to really acknowledge it, and not to acknowledge it so that you sort of then bat it away. The idea is that we're really getting to know who this person is in the emotions that we have. So we're coming really deeply into our present. And that's what I'm working with right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's really sage advice to use this moment and to as a positive, to reframe it in your mind and look at it as not what we can't do, but what we can do, which is essentially how we live our life with our dogs. Not about ways to look at the negatives, but to look at the positives. What can I control? What can I do? What is it, the behavior that I want? So there's constant parallels. So if we take a step back and talk about your own, because what's currently happening is there's been a lot of people across the world and also the globe that are gravitating to online training, largely out of necessity because of the current climate. Your personal story has been really, really interesting in that how you come to online training. Could you just share a little bit of that with us?
Yeah, sure. So I was a corporate lawyer for years in the City of London for about a decade. And it was a total case of square peg, round hole.
Right.
But, I was very much, right, no, this is what you do, and battling onwards and upwards. And then I had a few sort of key moments in my life that led to a transformation time. And for me, it was a perfect storm. It's a classic. 3 things. I had a car crash which limited my movement. So my yoga practice had always been gymnastic, frankly. And that meant that I couldn't move. So I needed to learn other skills. I needed to learn about breath work. I needed to learn about mindfulness. Then I had my husband walked out on me, thankfully, 10 years ago. And then my dog got cancer. So all of those things happened. And that meant that I basically had some aha moments, like, right, I'm leaving the law. When the dog got cancer, I went to live in the countryside, in Sussex, actually, in England. And then I was like, what do I do about my yoga? Where's my practices? And of course, the people who were local to me weren't quite the caliber who I was used to being with. So I just asked some of my friends who happened to be sort of the top teachers in the world, hey, what do you think if I do some videos? And it was literally like that. It was very organic. It wasn't really a big business plan. It wasn't like, this is me going to make millions. It really was, I need my practices with really good people in a way that's convenient. And I just thought, God, it's not going to be just me who's stuck out here remotely. It's going to be everybody, and all the busy people. So that's how it was for me. And for me, well, I'll list the skills that I didn't have because honestly, I didn't have any web skills. I didn't even know how to use the internet. I literally had my ex pushing me into the computer room, kicking and screaming. I was that one. I didn't have a smartphone. I was totally a technophobe. So I hated computers. I knew nothing about filming. I knew nothing about marketing. I knew nothing about sales. I was a lawyer. I could basically read and write quite well.
Wow.
I mean, lawyers are completely, they have zero skills because they have a secretary to do everything for them, every practical skill. So it was really interesting having to pick up all the practical skills and learn about what's sales, what's marketing.
Well, we've had numerous discussions about this, and I think we had the discussion when you were first contemplating movement. I can remember it was actually at the back in the right back of after class at Ricelip. We were discussing about, you were saying this is about your plan. I'm going to do online yoga, and I was like, oh, how funny! I'm going to do online dog training, and the again, like you said, I think the thing that this is an interesting point that it actually brings up the question of being fearful and apprehensive, and really what largely our hand was forced in that we were probably a little bit fearful. What for me largely was, I don't know if this is going to work. I don't know if I can do it. I don't know, who am I going to be in this industry? Yours was, I don't know the skills. It's all fear based. And in this moment, I think that fear and is definitely something that's prevalent with all of us. And people are fearful about losing their businesses and it's almost forced their hand. And I think sometimes it takes that to cause you to rise up and come up with a solution to the problem, which is what you and I have both essentially done. And your yoga business is now incredibly successful. So how many instructors do you have now that work with you?
To be honest, I don't try and have many because I want to. So we've got about 30.
Okay.
But for me, the key thing is just having the best.
Yeah.
So we've got
30 from a conversation of 30 from the conversation of, hey, why don't we put some videos out, is amazing.
Oh, yeah, right.
You know?
Yeah, well, that's true. That's true. I mean, But we've got 1,500 videos on the site now, and we've got tons of challenges. And what I really love about it is we've got a really engaged community.
Right.
And for me, that is the most important thing because, as you know, there's nothing like having a training session where you can be ad hoc, where you can really get to know your students and teach them better in that way. And that can be the problem with online, I think, is that it can be very clinical.
Right.
And for me, getting the community piece was the thing that was always missing, and it's only come together in the last couple of years.
Right.
So I think that's been a really, really key thing.
So what would you say, what has been your biggest learning curves when it comes to moving to online training then? What has been the real...
oh my God, everything. I've literally made every single mistake. Like, I made loads of money and then I just spent it all on all the wrong things, on the wrong technology, on the wrong people, on the wrong, systems, mostly on the wrong people. I think in running any small businesses, it's hiring that's the hardest. And especially in the web world, because actually, as you know, Kamal, these guys are super in demand, and they normally are guys. And they command a massive rate. And it's really, really hard to get somebody who gets your project, who trusts you, and who can stay the course. Because changing personnel, changing teams is awful.
So you're quite obviously on a large scale into probably what, and you and I both spoke extensively about, it's taken us a long time to put the project together in a way that we're happy with. For those people out there that are in the moment of, okay, I need to put something together, even something as simple as a Facebook group and start communication can be a medium of which they can start to reach their clients and to start to operate. Zoom technology, Udemy, all great platforms to use that you can start to reach people and connect with them. So it doesn't have to be on the scale necessarily that Kat is talking about, but it's finding, I think that she raised a really, really important point, is it's not focusing on, take your eye off the fact about, and I think this is really, really important. It's not about the money of it. It's about building community. And if you create a community, then your business will be successful in that by definition, because you're going to be serving a purpose that is bigger than just getting a paycheck. I absolutely understand for a lot of people that's going to be a real big thought in their head. But if you look, what is your raison d'etre? What is it? Why are you doing it? And for you, Kat, it was about accessing great information, being able to help people. I think that you've always been very clear about that. That's been your motivation, isn't it? To help people.
That's it.
Yeah,
and I think that it's changed, and as these things do morph over time, And now I definitely see it as, I'm inspiring people to live a more healthy, happy and sustainable life. And I think the community element and getting to know the person and getting to trust.
Yeah.
Because also right now there are loads of faceless online businesses. So I would say to people, be yourself.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, we're all so unique.
Absolutely. And I think that's a huge one. And I had this conversation with somebody else that's spoken in these conversations about the necessity of authenticity. It's be who you are, be yourself. I think there's often a weakness within online training, and that everybody tries to copy somebody else. And I think that the key to success, if you want for a better term, is to find who you are and let the people know who that is, and then they can choose to gravitate to you or choose not to. And if they choose to go to somebody else, that's absolutely fine. And I think you're not going to appeal to everybody, and that's absolutely fine. Or your medium of delivery isn't going to appeal to everybody, and that's absolutely fine.
And it's almost better that you don't appeal to everyone. It's better to be Marmite.
Yeah.
It's better that some people think this is really not for me.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's totally cool. That's when you know you're onto something, because you'll find other people who are just, oh my gosh, I've been waiting for this.
Yeah, absolutely. So in terms, you mentioned earlier about talking about your journey into online training and the necessity. What would be a couple of key points that you would advise anybody thinking about doing it, to simple things that they can do and they can implement almost instantaneously?
Okay. Well, for me, of course, it's always going to be a question of get to know yourself, because it's all very well saying, be authentic you, but most of us don't have a clue who that person is.
Yeah.
So I think it's actually well worth, for me, it was actually a journey of yoga nidra, which is a yoga sleep. It's not the kind of yoga that's going to give you a hot bottom. It's like going into this sort of between sleep and waking state.
Right.
And for me, that was a really beautiful way to access a sort of inner wisdom.
Right.
And it sounds so cheesy,
Yeah.
but you just, especially now that we can't do anything, it's kind of finding this time to get to know yourself. And who is your voice? What is your message? What is your dharma? What's your mission? And I think the stronger you are on the who you are and the why you want to do what you're doing, like, there's no point checking out all the tech platforms. There's no point checking out all the other stuff and it's easy, I think, when you're setting stuff up, to be diverted. Like, right, I'm going to take this course. I'm going to learn this. I'm going to do this. Like, there's a lot of doing that can be done. And actually, I think a lot of that is a distraction. Because I think a lot of it is we need to find out what exactly is it that we can offer.
Perfect.
What is it that you want to do? So that's my thing.
So coming back to yoga and yoga practice, obviously there's variations of yoga that probably, again, we could talk about that as a conversation itself. But you mentioned about breathing. Obviously, the virus is one of the things that it's going to affect is your breathing and your respiratory system. And if you have respiratory issues, that could make you more vulnerable. So what can people do at home to help themselves, again, to strengthen their respiratory system and give themselves a bit of a leg up?
Yeah, good question. It's luckily your breath work is really one of these things that is super under your control. You can make your lungs fitter, as it were. As in, you can really increase your oxygen intake. You can increase the capacity of your lungs by mindful breathing. There are loads and loads of different breathing techniques. The first way to sort of, as an inroad into it, would just to become aware of your breath, because many of us have it as a subconscious thing. We do have a 10-day breathwork practice that's interesting because it takes you on a bit of a journey into your breath, and actually something that's just coming out next week. We've got just 10 minutes a day, short breathing practices, and those are meant for people who are super stressed, because people who are really busy. And I think that I'll do a little link at the bottom of this to those, because they're really helpful. And for me, for example, before I compete, because as you know, with all this yoga, I'm still an utter nervous wreck when it comes to competing, as many people are. So I always do a very simple breath technique, which is, it's a nostril breath where you go in with one nostril and out with the other.
Right.
And you're essentially going in sort of beautiful circles.
Right.
But I've now sort of taken it that I don't, because in the traditional way, you'll block off a nasal passage. But now I just need to visualize it. And that's a very cool thing to do. So that's one really nice breathwork technique. The other thing that you can do, if you're just wanting to really simply have a very simple thing here and now, like what can I do for my breath? If you put your hands where your sort of bra strap is, if you're a woman, or where you feel a bra strap if you're a bloke, and you and you start breathing into that. So you feel a breath, and what you're looking for is a space in the intercostal muscles here. Right. So you're feeling a space in your rib cage. You're feeling it comes towards the back of your body. And I know a lot of people say belly breathing, and that's actually, it's sort of very hard because your stomach's in your belly. So if you start to sort of feel a width of breath, that's something that can really help. And the other thing that can really help is, having said I'm not going to talk about it in depth, is to just count breaths. So inhale 5, exhale 5. And just do that. Do that for 5 minutes. Start with inhale 3, exhale 3, if it makes you anxious. If any of it, breathwork can make people anxious at first. Right. If it makes you anxious, stop doing it.
It's simple. And start simpler, and maybe just count of 2 in and out, and then so forth. Okay, got it.
Or even just let it, because lots of people, they'll literally first acquaint themselves with the breath, and it's a panic. So just notice the panic, and don't try and do it for a bit.
I think,
and then go easier.
And the thing that I pick up from you is, it's almost acknowledging, those things like your change of breath or your fact I'm getting, and it's being aware of what you're doing. And again, in this moment, again coming back to where we are presently, it's being aware I'm getting anxious, I'm feeling anxious, and being able to ground yourself and pull yourself back in. So great advice there, Kat. Fantastic.
Exactly.
So in terms of you mentioned that you're not doing much dog training per se, but you're going back to fundamentals. Do you have any sort of things that little go-to things that you're doing with your dogs in and around the home that people could try?
Oh my gosh, me giving dog training tips.
Go on, Kat.
That is hysterical. You know what I'm actually playing with as of yesterday's lesson? I'm playing with not having an on and off switch, because I've always been really rigid with that. Okay. Like, my dogs know when they're on, they know when they're off. And now I'm kind of just messing around and chucking them some random stuff here and there. Just to sort of play with things, actually. So I'm just playing with concepts. I'm playing with different ideas. For me, something I'm playing with, as you know, is the concept of noise and no noise. And actually having this time to deepen that understanding in tons of different environments. Like, do you understand make noise when I'm preparing your dinner? Do you understand make noise when I'm doing the hoovering? Being really, really random. Because at the moment, we've got it on really good behavior when she's like, okay, I'm switched on. I'm ready. I'm looking at you. I'm now going to do this thing. When I'm not in that kind of dog training mode, it's really interesting to see. She's like, huh? What? What? So that's a really cool thing. And the other thing I'm playing with the puppy, who's not so much a puppy anymore, is I'm playing with the PDAs. And that was your suggestion. And I've really been terrible at doing it, actually, because I've been erring on the side of clinical. Like, I'll click my dog some reward. Like, we're in a workspace. We're going to work. We're going to do this duration. We're going to get the click. We're going to reward. Then we stop. And actually, the trouble with that, as you know, is you get sort of various issues building up when you ask for bigger challenges. And then you don't have any secondary reinforcers. So I'm working with what my secondary reinforcers are for a dog who is so keen on primaries. I know, right? Having said I'm not doing any dog training, it's all right. You actually
seem like you're actually doing really good dog training. That's brilliant.
Well, for me it's different, because I'm really like, right, today I'm doing sendaways, today I'm doing heel work. And for me it's really different to do that.
So coming back to saying where people are at the moment, obviously for those of watching that are competing dog sports, it may be we don't know when we're going to be back competing again. How are you keeping yourself, although you said you've backed off your dogs a little bit, how have you tried to keep yourself connected and motivated to get. I mean, obviously, we've got all this time. The easiest thing is to go, oh, I'm not going to bother. We haven't got anything to train for. As you mentioned, you're very competitive. How are you dealing with that conundrum in your head?
Yeah, it's hard for sure. Because again, I respond really well to, okay, this is my timeline. I'm working towards this, and this is how we're going to do it. And when there's no timelines, it's really, really hard to motivate yourself. So I guess what I'm doing is I'm taking it on a personal journey level. Like, I just want to become a better dog trainer. I don't know if secondary reinforcers are going to be useful. I don't know if this whole thing about teaching noise in different environments while I'm doing the hoovering, is that really going to be useful? But it is teaching me how to communicate better with my dogs.
And I
it's
think,
kind of that.
The thing that's interesting is it comes back to, again, how these things are, it is being not fearful of trying. And I think that's those people that are in this moment, if we bring it back to the discussion that we're talking about online training or different ventures or the concept of fear, it is not to be fearful of the unknown, to try things. And if you are contemplating doing online training or contemplate delivering your classes in a different medium or using technology, don't be fearful of trying, because there is always even if you try and it doesn't go quite you want, you're going to learn from that experience. I think that's the huge thing. That is, Kat has reiterated in several ways with her yoga, with her business, with her dog training. It is something that fear is such a restricting thought, and I think that people need to, in certainly this moment where it's very easy to be fearful, to really use that as an opportunity to go, do you know what, I'm going to go out of my comfort zone, I'm going to try these different things, and I'm going to embrace challenges, and I'm going to learn from it. The other thing that is really interesting that this moment has also created is people have been, for want of a better term, forced to take time, forced to connect with their children, their siblings, their partners, their spouses, and go out for a walk, because now it's amazing when things are forbidden fruit, how people are actually, you see, I went took my dogs and drove my dogs to take them for a walk, and I saw people taking their dogs for a walk that at that time of day I normally wouldn't see. They'd probably be at work, or kids on bikes and with families all going out together. Again, because we've had it almost taken away from us, now it becomes more of a purpose, like, let's do this activity, and there, for all the negatives that are going on, I think there is something positive to be gleaned from the opportunity to reconnect. I think that's a huge thing.
Oh, absolutely. I know, I absolutely think so. I think this is a gift. I know it sounds ridiculous, and obviously there are people who are dying, and that's horrendous. But it's a gift in as much as getting this pause in life to really examine, to really take a step back. And it's kind of to use this wisely, because you see people who are really messing around right now, and who are like, I'm going to watch all the box sets or whatever. Like, come on, be smart about this, because this is something that we'll never, ever get back again. It's amazing.
And I think the interesting, that's a great thing to take away from not only, life, but also from dog training or competing, is to reframe things. We've all been given a set of circumstances where we have got restricted. Oh God, going to get a room. In the sense that we've all been given restrictions, and rather than to look at it as, oh, I can't do this, again, reframe it in your mind and go, do you know what, this is an opportunity for me to look at myself, address those dog training issues that I haven't, to do some work on my myself, to maybe try some different things in terms of different ventures, look at my business differently. And even post this, I think that there's gonna be some struggles there. I think, as we all pick ourselves up and move on, thinking laterally about, okay, how do I be more creative? How do I diversify what I do? So, really, really interesting, Kat.
And what I like about that, I'm going to just, one more thing, is just to be a bit lighter and be a bit more playful with it as well. Because also, as you say, this time almost doesn't matter. It's like, it's brand new, fresh time. There's nothing scheduled. We've got nothing, you can't really mess anything up with your dogs, with your yoga, with anything right now. You can just play. And actually, I know that it's a heavy period, and there's a lot of it, and I've even seen posts saying people shouldn't be having fun. Yeah, we really should.
Absolutely.
Get light.
Which is really what these conversations are about, to raise people up. Again, the thing that I've been saying is about a rising tide lifts all ships. If we are in this together, we can pull together. If we can lift each other up, we will absolutely get through this. And that's what these conversations have been about. Kat, it's been fantastic. So how can people connect and reach with you?
Go to movementformodernlife.com.
Okay.
And we are actually starting a home yoga retreat. So you'll get a daily class, you'll get a daily live meditation, and that's going to be in a week's time. Again, we can put a link on to here. Mm-hmm. I'm also going to give your gang a lovely discount, so I'm going to put that on the thread too, of course, because also it's hard time for a lot of self-employed people.
Yeah.
And they need these practices. So,
that's super generous, Kat. Kat, thank you very much for your time and your wisdom and your insight. It's been fantastic, hugely uplifting. Enjoy the rest of your day. Take care.
Always good to chat, Kamal. Take care.
Later.
Bye.